Hello and welcome to the Teaching Excellence podcast. Today I'm joined by Scott Hayden from Basingstoke College of Technology. I'll give it its full title at the beginning, Scott. Hi Scott, how are you?
Hello, Stef. Yes, really good. 1 week in now, week two. Everything's going relatively well, actually. So yeah, I feel pretty optimistic, pretty positive. Happy to share what we've been through because
Yeah,
there's some bits that hopefully will be of use to other schools and colleges. Because as we discussed before we started recording, we've been teaching remotely through the COVID-19 lockdown at the end of the last academic year, and we're now 100% open at the college. So we've got some interesting sort of case studies to share.
yeah, no, that'd be fab. People are really interested in what other people are doing. And you know a little bit about me. You know, the podcast is always about how we can share, you know, our stories, challenges, successes, so that everyone can sort of come together and help each other. So yeah, talk to me about lockdown then. How was that? It feels like an age ago, but we did it. It was so intense. We all just took our stuff and went home and made things happen, didn't we? So talk to me about how it was for you.
Yeah, I remember our senior management team were really agile and decisive. I mean, fair play to them. Like 2 weeks before lockdown, March 19th, was it, around about then?
Yeah.
I remember my team and I being on video calls, much like we're on right now, and just sending a link to all the staff and just saying, we're on video calls. If you want to practice being on video, then click on this link at any point. And teachers were jumping in the 2 weeks prior, just practicing being on camera, you know, whether you were too close or whether you were at a funny angle, or the light was different, or the audio wasn't good enough. And we were practicing in class and in staff rooms 2 weeks before lockdown by just mucking about and playing, really.
Mm-hmm.
That was something because SMT asked us to do that. We made training videos, how to animated GIFs, which we put onto our shared space, and documents, how-to guides, virtual classroom rules. But what I think was most important, Steph, was our principal, Anthony Bravo. He went on camera himself and
Right.
said, hello, guys, I'm at home right now. Here's a video of my son playing in the garden. Here's a PowerPoint. Here's the chat. Okay, I'm doing it. We can do this. Come on. And the principal, leading by example, that made everyone in the staff rooms go, yeah, fair play. He's doing it as well. So we better give this a go. So that leadership, I think, was crucial. And my team, who are made up of student digital leaders who graduate to become technologists in our team, they are unfailingly kind and patient and sweet, emotionally intelligent people, and that's how they get their jobs, really. That's what I value above everything. And they go into staff rooms and train people up on these things. So 2 weeks before lockdown, we were doing that. So when it happened, our wonderful IT systems team took out all the tech, gave it to all the students and staff based on what they said they needed in a form, and away we went.
Amazing. It sounds great. And I think it's really important, the leadership and the messages, the reassurance, the positivity, the kind of, you know, we're in it together type approach, undoubtedly is the leadership that makes a difference, isn't it? In times where it feels really uncertain, whether it be COVID or whether it be any other time, you know, there are colleges at different points deal with different pressures. It's important that leadership leads positively and kind of very open-mindedly and wholeheartedly is the phrases that I kind of use, where, you know, people feel reassured and feel like they're in it together. And I really like that, actually. That will have definitely made a difference.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the idea of openness, you're absolutely right, and that transparency where Anthony was going, I might make a mistake doing this, but I'm going to try it. And we would just share and practice, and, you know, it was quite a laugh, you know, making mistakes for each other. And that was kind of a unique bonding experience. And in the lessons before lockdown, we were remote beaming in our peers who were perhaps shielding at home or were unable to come in. And so we had this hybrid approach in some of the lessons before lockdown. So it sort of got us used to the idea of using these tools. And for 5 years now, the college has implemented 1 hour of digital learning or blended learning, flips learning into the fabric of every single curriculum from level 1 to level 4. So whether you're childcare or engineering, you've got 1 hour of independent digital study.
Yeah.
So the students have been used to that approach of independent, focused, concentrated study that develops their digital skills, but also helps them gain criteria and work towards their outcomes.
Yeah.
So that planted the seed, certainly, for the students to be able to adapt when it came to lockdown, because we moved entirely online, which of course nobody wants as a first choice. And that's something a lot of MPs are only starting to realise, I'm noticing. We're not pushing technology as a replacement. It's only ever a toolkit, as something I know you and Lou are very clear about when you talk about these things online. It's an augmentation. It's just a way to connect. And what we found, Steph, through lockdown is that our incredible learning support team in particular thrived, whether it be having separate chat groups or separate video calls or breakout rooms away from the noise of a big video call.
Yeah.
That was crucial. And we found that the toolkit of the technology we had, the digital pencil case, as it were, really started to show its worth and value to those students for whom learning traditionally has never been an option. People who learn differently, they found that connecting through these virtual spaces and being connected to their tribe remotely, that was crucial. And we got them through. We got them, you know, emotionally and academically, that 4-month lockdown. So using the toolkit and giving them a chance to practice it in the classroom in that 1 hour of digital learning each week, even though some students don't necessarily like independent digital study, they want to be with the teacher and they don't necessarily have the maturity to work independently yet, but we have that ingrained in every single course. So when it comes to lockdown, they were ready because they were used to doing it, and they started to realize the benefit of that independent digital study hour because they had learned to use the toolkit to connect and to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and you've just made me think of something I was listening to actually. I'm listening to an audio book. It's nothing to do with education actually, but it's about personal development. And she talks a lot about how if you want to change a behavior, you've got to make it familiar. So, and she talks about the language that you use in your own head as well. So if you say, I don't like it, or I'm not very good at it, ultimately that's kind of how you feel about the behavior, and therefore you don't do the behavior. But if you manage to shift the way that you think and therefore speak about something, and in this case it's been that, you know, people may have sort of resisted technology, whether they be staff or students, because, you know, they've said, oh, I'm not very good at that. But actually there wasn't a choice. But I think the colleges that did really well, and I know at my end, you know, my team at Barnsley we just got out there and supported everybody as best we could. And we supported them, you know, it didn't matter what time of the day it was. It was about practice. It was just about have a go. It was about trial. It was about don't worry if you get it wrong, you know, and we did all of that. And that helped people just to move forward with how they felt about technology. But I really like actually that you, as you said, you've got that 1 hour that's already embedded in the curriculum as part of digital learning. That will have definitely helped your students to feel like more familiar to move online when it was, we've got to go, you know. So that I think that will have definitely helped them. But it sounds like you got, you know, you approached it very supportively and developmentally. And I think that's, you know, I'm a strong believer that is the only way to be if we want to help our teachers to be the best teachers they can be.
I think so. I think that empathy, emotional intelligence, kindness, patience, sweet-natured approach, just to be gentle with for terrified, you know, ego beaten down teachers is something that we absolutely have to approach things from the angle of. I've been lucky enough to take on 2 new apprentices in the last week, the lovely Umera and Jay, who were former students, one of whom was a former digital leader again, who's progressed into our team here at the college, and they were employed on the basis of how nice they are. And that's not so difficult to say that without sounding almost condescending, but I shouldn't really feel that way, but I do, because I've spent 20 years of being told that I'm not strong enough, or I'm not tough enough, or I need to be more. But that's where I've been my whole life, and I'm at a stage in my career where I'm realizing that the fact that my mum is incredibly nice and gentle and sweet and raised me to care about that above most things. That's actually a value now in culture, and particularly our sector, whereby teachers need that support, love and care. And say many things about me, but I do care about teachers, and I do, love working with them, and people in our team are employed on that basis. And I think you're right. That is the thing that we're realizing in schools and colleges, that we need people internally, or certainly supporting in any way, who have got that patience, because our IT teams in schools and colleges are brilliant at what they do, but it's in many instances a very different skill set to be supporting and helping people with teaching and learning tools, as it were. And a lot of IT guys have been lumbered with doing that, as well as the enormous amounts of work they've got to do as well. So we're very lucky at our college, whereby we've got a team who looks after the networks and the DNA of the college, the creating the sandbox, as it were. And then we've got my team, who are very much in the classrooms and staff rooms supporting people, and being led by the pedagogy, of course. And that always comes first. Listening to the teaching experts and working to co-design with them.
Yeah. I've just been talking to someone actually this morning about pedagogy first, and I keep using that little phrase, but ultimately if we focus on the craft and we focus on teaching and learning, and then match the tools to that, we're not going to go far wrong. Yes, we don't have all the answers at this point, but if we keep it based in sort of teaching and learning, I don't want to say theory, because that still puts people off, but what I'm saying is that, let's think about what we know, evidence-based, what do we know already, what is really good teaching and learning, and then let's figure out what that means with the technology alongside it. Not let's use this tool over here just because it looks good, or it sounds fancy. It's got to be about the pedagogy, and I think that's where the power of technology really comes to the fore, isn't it?
Yeah, I favour post-its and flip chart paper just as much as I do a Google Doc and Twitter. It's just different tools. And like, I'm teaching at 12:30 today, and I'm nervous about teaching. I've been teaching at 12:30, and you still get those nerves, because I care about my craft, and I love the fact you use the word craft, Stef, because it is, goddammit, and we should not forget that. It's something that matters enormously. And I'm at a stage in my career where I've put in roughly my 10,000 hours, as Malcolm Gladwell would call it. And you start to find a little bit more flow, and it starts to become a little bit more creative, and I'm loving it. It's something I'm going to do forever. I love teaching. And with my team in particular, it's really important to me that they have teaching experience as well, so they can empathize and see from the user's perspective, as it were, the teachers, and understand and have those examples to be able to share and work alongside them. Really important to me that they know how to do that, as well as support them with the technology. But it's always from the perspective of the teaching experts and what they need, because we'll never ever force anybody to use anything. We're agnostic about all the brands. I know some people in my position or similar positions around the country are very evangelical about a particular branded god, as it were, that they have in their institution, and I understand they're very attractive and they're very cool, all these big companies, and I've been wooed by these companies in the past as well, and only now do I look at those pictures and cringe because ultimately the only thing we should be looking up to and celebrating is brilliant teachers, and that's the only thing that actually matters. The rest of it is so cold, corporate, it doesn't have our best interests at heart. So I think it's really important to focus entirely on the craft of teaching, and to be led entirely by that, and to have complete deference to Fiona Dix in health and social care, who's like a masterful teacher, and going to her and just saying, what do you need, Fiona? How can we help you? And she'll share her scheme of work with us, and we can go, oh, it'd be nice to have a chat group for that potentially, or how about we get them practicing being on camera to improve their interpersonal skills if they're in lockdown, because in health and social care you're going to probably need to do this in the future. And it happens organically, led by the teaching expert always. And that's something that I'm really proud of at the college, that we listen to the teachers and are constantly led by them. We would never ever push anything onto anybody, ever.
No, that's great. And before we go on, I want to ask you about how you've prepared for the new academic year, actually, because I think people are really interested in, in, you know, hearing what other people are doing and what they can learn. I do want to pick up on the, you know, the leadership you mentioned about maybe sometimes kind and being empathetic is seen as like soft leadership.
Yeah.
And, you know, I often have the, you know, you're all unicorns and rainbows type.
I have it as well, Steph. I know. I know. I know it's been very difficult for me over the last 10 years, but culture's shifted. I mean, it's no
Yeah.
longer, it's what Gerd Leonhard, I've quoted it a couple of times, but Gerd Leonhard, this futurist, he says core skills are what matter in the future. The acronym CORE: compassion, originality, responsibility, and empathy.
Love
The
that.
core skills cannot be automated, they cannot be replaced, and these are fundamental in the craft of teaching and learning, so that comes first.
Yeah, and I used to take that quite badly at one point, but now I realise there's real power in that. And when I say power, I don't mean like ego power. I mean just real, honest sort of, you know, energy around compassion and empathy and leading with that sort of sense of responsibility for the greater good.
Yes.
I feel really passionate about that, but I know people will know that I champ on about that on Twitter sometimes anyway, and LinkedIn. But yeah, so tell me about how you've prepared for the new academic year. What's been going on? What's your thinking?
So we're 100% open at the college, which I know is not a lot of other colleges are the same. So the way we've done it is, you know, of course, very vigilant about masks in all shared areas and all areas at the moment, to be honest with you, even hallways.
Yeah.
And that's something we're very hot on. Of course, anti-back in every rooms. If a student is remote or the teacher is remote, as happened last week with our English and maths lessons, then we beam them into the classroom onto the screen. And the students can engage via chatting or in the breakout rooms, or if they're feeling brave, turning on the camera and saying, "Hello, Dan, I'm not sure about the question here." And they have that dialogue that way. It starts off with them being on mute typically and their cameras off, but as things progress and they build up more rapport, then we tend to see a bit more people on camera communicating that way. Yeah. So the hybrid model of having a webcam in every sort of classroom like this that can actually beam people in if they choose to be, but safeguarding, permitting, of course, only if they want to be, is something that we're seeing more and more. And I peek into classrooms all day, which is what I do. I help out in every classroom. I'm noticing more and more webcams in lieu of an actual physical person, and they're being beamed in, or they're on the Chromebook talking and interacting that way. And that's happened really quickly. It's really strange how agile and quickly the entire maths and English department in particular has adapted to cope with absences and to bring people in, and that's been really a nice bonding sort of tool as well for the classes. So that has been the primary sort of thing we've been doing. Our apprentices Jay and Dumera have made how-to videos for staff to introduce themselves as well, which is quite nice. And again, we're just going around to the staff rooms, Steph, just making sure you're all right, you've got everything you need. If they have any issues, then my team go and support them. And we're making sure that we're in their corner, make sure they constantly know via chat or via email or phone call, whatever they need, that we are there constantly. If you're worried about anything, we'll be there. And it's that customer service, I suppose, that we pride ourselves on, making sure they've got all the support they need, because it's anxiety inducing, isn't it? You know, making sure you're doing it right.
Yeah, there's so much sort of fear, uncertainty going on, and I keep championing the message of being imperfect.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have all the answers, we can't do everything all of the time. And I think, you know, if we're going to be innovative, again, some other reading that I've done recently is about innovation being very responsive, but very adaptable, and constantly reviewing and reflecting what we're doing. And I don't mean measure. I don't mean we got to measure even more heavily than we ever did. What I mean is having the sort of formative check-in of what's going on, to be able to just review, reflect, and tweak and change. Keep what's working, change what's not working.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to do that. I'm interested in, so in your classes then, in maths and English, the example you used, you've got a mixture of people in the class and online. So I'm assuming now, but you'll tell me different, ultimately, pedagogy has to come first in that instance, because you have to just think about how the teaching and learning will happen. You're not thinking about it from the two different spaces.
That's right. So it's going to be their engagement is their attendance, Steph. So if somebody's at home and they turn their webcam and mic off and they go for a cup of tea, and then after 60 minutes they log off and think, got away with that, I'm registered, then that's not quite that simple. We engage them, ask them questions. They've got to join in on collaborative documents, spreadsheets, Jamboards. They've got to do a task on Century and then show their progress. The teacher can see all that data coming in live. So it's difficult to sort of bunk off the online lessons, which, you know, at first you're going to get that when you start to do these remote lessons, but their engagement is their attendance, is the sort of mantra that we keep going back to make sure that, and it makes us conscious, as we always should be, of making sure that everyone's engaged, that all the plates are spinning, that they are listening, they are with us. And if anyone's left behind, then we circle back round and, you know, check that objective again. So yeah, that's something that we're learning on the fly. And as you say, it's really exciting because we're problem solving in real time and sharing in our chat groups with each other what's happening. And we're seeing incredible gains really quickly. Like Justin in hospitality, he's incredible. Over lockdown, he would get his webcam in his kitchen, make breakfast, show the guys what he was doing, and he'd send the menu into Google Classroom, and the guys would go off and use alternative ingredients to make their version of it, and then photograph or video it, and then share it at the end of the lesson. He would flip the classroom, whereby the first 10, 15 minutes was him demoing, but then he'd say, like, leave the Google Meet, now go away and do it, and at 10:45, I'll meet you back here. And if they didn't come back, they haven't done the work.
Yeah.
And what happened is, over a period of time, they started to lead on things and challenge each other. Yeah. And that was wonderful. And we're seeing that approach in his physical classrooms. It's interesting how the same mentality is in the physical classroom, where they're all physically there. They're all now used to the fact that we do this together. It's not just Justin at the front telling us what to do. We've all got to contribute. We've all got to take the lead at times, and when it's flipped over to us, we are responsible for our learning. And that's something that has been an interesting consequence of lockdown. The students who are returning to us realise that, okay, we all do this together. It's not just the sage on the stage, and that's something that I'm really happy about.
I think that's amazing, because I think, you know, I talk about teachers as the leaders of the classroom, and the leadership of the teacher, you know, if they can be kind to themselves in that we are all figuring it out as we go along, but then really willing to just try new things, but project that message that we are in it together, that it's not about the teacher just delivering content. And if you think about lesson design again, because I saw some amazing things actually with catering in the last term, and it was, you know, that if you think about, well, how does the technology help me to engage the students, and if you think about how you would normally do it in a physical space, and then think about the tools that will allow you to get the same or better impact, that's where you're putting pedagogy first and this sense of community first.
That's really crucial, Steph, that sense of community. You're absolutely right. In beauty and makeup, those ladies with the incredible designs on their sites and blogs, using free tools like Snapseed and Adobe Photoshop Express, and sharing their photographs with each other and commenting on each other's work, and going away for a day to try and improve it based on that peer feedback, and then coming back and sharing it again. It was really vibrant. In their chat groups and on their socials, the support and love for each other to elevate the entire class was just profound. And meanwhile, Kelly and Alice and the guys were, you know, facilitating, watching it, you know, in the background, just making sure everything was ticking along. Brilliant teaching, so good.
Yeah, so good. So what have you done in Induction then? Any sort of things that you can share specifically about Induction, and how you've kind of tried to set off on the best foot forward, if you like?
Yeah, so we have a digital induction at the college where every single one of our full-time courses has a digital induction where they learn how to log in, how to hand in assignments, how to collaborate on documents and presentations, how to chat to their teachers if they need to, how to access a video call if they need to. So they leave that digital induction knowing the toolkit. And then in the flipped learning session each week, the independent digital study session, we continue to consolidate those skills. Every single subject has had that as at the time of recording. In my induction, I teach media a day and a half a week, and I've been doing lots of bingo, getting around, talking to each other. That's still a staple. Dream dinner parties a really good one as well. I give them a circle and they've got to populate with their dream dinner party. Anybody alive or dead? That was really good. Good getting to know you task.
Yeah.
Lots of post-its and flip chart activities to get them talking to each other, because when they're in the classroom, Steph, they've got to be doing things that are worth their while. What I mean by that is they've been working remotely 4 months and very well, many of them. So if we do things with them that they can do remotely, then they're going to call us out on it very quickly.
Yeah.
So they are doing physical, hands-on, practical, hopefully vibrant, effervescent activities that stretch and consolidate their learning. Because, like, for example, I've got a lesson today and tomorrow. I'm doing camera techniques, lighting. I'm doing, hands-on stuff, because the rest of it I know I can do remotely if I need to. But the physical lessons I'm prioritizing, as are many teachers across the country, prioritizing and bringing to the forefront the practical, physical stuff that can never be done remotely.
Yeah. And there's the two elements for me that's really important in face-to-face classroom time. It is about the getting to know you, sense of community, getting to know each other, working together, which you can't replace online. You can still build community online, and you can still build relationships online, but there are some things you can't do. And I think that spending the time in the classrooms on that, but also, like you say, then the practical skills, whether it be subject related practical skills or whether it be your holistic person development skills.
Yes.
That I think is really important. But like you said, what I really liked is you said it has to be valuable to them, otherwise they're going to call us out, and that's so true.
Yeah, the team building stuff, the human interaction, interpersonal skills, that's every lesson. That's the priority. Again, the core skills we just mentioned.
Yeah.
That's what I'm focusing all my lesson plan objectives on. That's what it's got to be at the forefront, because if they can do it remotely as well as then as if they were in the physical classroom, then shame on me for not organising my scheme of work. I knew this was coming. I knew this year was going to be like this. So it's important to me to use that time as best I can. So yeah, every single physical lesson, it's got to be vibrant. It's got to be, I've got to be here for the live event of it. This cannot be done any other way. So I'm really conscious of that.
Yeah, which is great. Okay, so anything else that's happened in Induction that's either been a challenge or that's worked well, do you think, that we might be able to share?
What's worked really well is getting a chat group available for every single group.
Yeah.
So a lot of the guys in the first couple of weeks don't want to talk in front of their peers, or they're a bit anxious, or perhaps they've been shielding and they couldn't come in, or maybe they've had sniffles and therefore they're awaiting a COVID test result and therefore they can't come in, and they're out of sync. Whereas a chat group in every single class is a back channel for the learning, for them to check on each other, to say, oh, what's the code for the Wi-Fi, or what time does the coach leave, or where's the timetable again? And they can talk in the background. It's this track that runs underneath the course. That is something that creating a chat group for every course has been really valuable.
Yeah.
And getting them used to that toolkit. In terms of challenges, I think the main challenge, as we discussed before we started recording, Steph, is the fact that when people have sniffles now, we can no longer just suck it up and get on with it like we normally do in FE. We have to be more responsible, and that means staying at home, waiting test results, and only then coming back to work. And the incremental pressure on the staff to cover for each other, that's something that across the sector we've got to reflect on, because I can see that affecting potentially the well-being of staff in the long term. Now, here at the college, we've got wonderful cover supervisors who can help out, and we're lucky in that regard, but not all institutions are the same. And I can see a lot of staff feeling that pressure in this first term, which is already hard enough, isn't it? The first term's always difficult, but that as well is an added layer that perhaps we hadn't anticipated, the turnaround of the test results.
Yeah, and I keep saying this to people, you can't keep adding things in if you've not taken something out. And as you alluded to, in FE, we kind of just keep adding, and we suck it up and we get on with it, and we sort of speak like that's normal, that we just cope in a really difficult situation. But part of that is reality, I understand that, but part of it is that we have to have a well-being agenda at all points, in whether we're planning a strategy, whether we're talking about things that are just happening on a day-to-day basis. We have to think about the well-being of staff and really consciously think, well, if we're going to add that in, what can we take out? Because we can't just keep adding. This year will be, if people don't do that, this year will really push people out of teaching, I think. So just before we finish, I want to talk a little bit about, so you're an EdTech demonstrator college, a DFE EdTech demonstrator college, and I want to just tell me what that means and what you've been doing.
Yeah, so the Department for Education have taken on, it was 20 originally, now it's expanded to 38 schools and colleges across the country to help other schools and colleges with free peer-to-peer, teacher-to-teacher support on how to use digital tools in their teaching and learning. And we were lucky to be named one. Yeah, I was really chuffed. It's a big deal to me. I always wanted to do something like that. It's yeah, I'm really so proud of it, because our team is based around student digital leaders who've graduated to become members of our team. And yeah, I'm just really proud of the guys. So we've been helping schools and colleges around the country with virtual inset days, small team training, hopefully in a couple of instances next week, traveling to them and actually working alongside them, which originally was the plan for the project, by the way. We had to adapt, of course, and we're working to give them long-term support, sustainable support for about, 3 to 4 month period. But then afterwards there's support, it's a little bit more at a distance, I suppose, but certainly concentrated, focused effort to get people up and running, as it were, if they're not quite there yet. And that could manifest itself as having a chat about things, or it might be going into team training sessions with curriculum areas, or it might be sharing resources, of which we've got many to share. Or it might be connecting, collaborating on different projects about English and maths resets, for example, something we are priding ourselves on doing a little bit differently at BCOTS. So it's completely free. It's peer-to-peer, teacher-to-teacher. I heartily recommend that everyone signs up so you can be connected with people. And it's brilliant, because I get a couple of days a week, 2.5 days a week to focus just on that. And our team help us out with that as well. So use the resource. We're very bad at that, I think, in the sector, accepting the help of others. And I think we need to collaborate more. Some people are excellent, of course, but I think on the whole, we need to suffer in silence less and to collaborate more, because chances are, if you're worried about making a digital strategy, then we've got some. We can give you some templates and you can adapt it to your needs. Don't start completely from scratch. We've got all these resources to share.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And Lou and I do a lot of bringing of people together, creating communities, creating networks, because we feel really passionate that we shouldn't all be reinventing the wheel, and especially around technology or strategy, or it's really important that we work together and we share, because like you say, it's not about just taking someone else's stuff and then just plonking it in your own place, because you can then be creative, set it in the right context for what's going to work for you. So yeah, I think I always encourage people reaching out. How do they reach out to you if they want to talk to you, Scott?
Yes, so the DFE EdTech demonstrator website is up and running, and I'll share a link with you and we can share it on our socials, potentially, Steph. So you simply fill in the form and then you're up and running, and then you're connected with a demonstrator school or college that is either geographically near you or in terms of your progress so far, near to where you are or want to be, and they can connect and collaborate with you, and you have straight away your video introduction meeting, and then the relationship starts. It's great. I love it. And it's something that will genuinely grow and develop us all, so I can't recommend it enough.
Fab. So thanks so much for joining me today, Scott. It's been really lovely to talk to you.
Thank you, Steph.
Bye.